Today on Vegan Freak Radio, the many moods of John Mackeys, vegan sexuals, and of course, a wonderful Dino segment. All of this and more on show number 77 for the 2nd of August, 2007. Hey everybody, this is Bob.
And Jenna.
And I forgot to do this.
Coming to you from high atop their elite fortress of moral superiority, here are your protein-deficient hosts, Bob and Jenna.
We're back again now.
That's because we're protein deficient. So
yeah, we are.
We're spacey, right?
Actually, we're time deficient.
Yeah.
So anyway, we need to begin with an apology to our audience. We've tried your patience by not doing regular shows, and we apologize. The past month has been insane. That's all I'm going to say. Work is killing me. It's killing both of us.
More than normal.
More than normal. And for the next month, we're going to have spotty production schedule. But after that, we will be back into it in September.
After the first week of September, we're all clear.
But until then, you have to expect somewhat irregular shows. So anyway, enough of that. You don't tune in to hear us whine about shit. You tune in to hear, well, I don't know. What do you tune in to hear?
Rants?
Witty banter? Smugness? I don't know.
Yes.
We've got all of that today.
We do.
And of course, Dino.
Yes.
Later on in the show. Also, I want to mention for subscribers, make sure you stay tuned. There's a special little subscriber segment at the end of the show. So after the music's over in the show, stay tuned because we're doing something extra for our subscriber friends. But with that said, let's just get right into the show.
Okay. Well, I had one thing to announce.
Let's get right into the show.
Okay.
Go.
Some people on the forums and Bob and I are training to do a half marathon or a 5K. And this is all through the website, worldwidehalf.com. Okay. I think. Yes, I think so. .com sounds right.
Pretty sure.
And it's basically just to promote running as a free, healthy thing that you can do. And you don't have to run an organized half marathon or an organized 5K. Just the point is just to get out there and do the miles yourself.
That's right.
And so there's all kinds of support on that website. And we even started a Team Vegan Freak.
There you go.
So if you'd like to register on that site, it's free, of course, and then join our team, you can do so. So worldwidehalf.com. And the half marathon would be the weekend of October 13th, 14th.
Yeah, somewhere
whatever
in there.
That weekend is, yeah.
So, yeah.
So you still have 10 weeks to train.
You do. You have plenty of time to train. There are a lot of 10-week schedules out there, and if you can run 3 miles without stopping, you can run a half in 10 weeks.
You can.
Easily.
And if that's not your speed, the Kick the Couch 5K is
That's
just,
right.
Get up, get your legs moving one in front of the other. You don't have to do it fast.
Even if
do it.
Even if you are a couch potato today. Even if you are the laziest vegan in the world and you have never worked out, in 10 weeks, you could train yourself to run a 5K without pain.
No problem.
So there you go. We're going to do it if you go over to the worldwidehalf.com and just join Team Vegan Freak and get out there and run with us, man. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So we got a couple things to talk about here briefly. Today's going to be a fairly short show because, again, we're crazy.
Yeah. No voicemails this week. We're going to save those for next show. We'll just do a voicemail bonanza.
And on the next show, we're going to have Dr. Monty from fitnessrocks.org on the show as well.
Yes, he does a fitness podcast, talks about fitness and diet.
Yeah, and promotes plant-based diets quite heavily.
Yes.
So that's good. So we're not going to have him on this week. We'll have him on next week. So this week you're getting Dino. But let's move into things here. We're a little behind on this, and I'm a little burnt because, man, this is like the day after we did our last show. All the stuff about John Mackey comes out.
And we had to talk about it anyway, so even though it's a couple weeks after.
Who cares, man?
Yeah.
We got all kinds of stuff to say about
We owe it
this.
to our listeners to rant more about John Mackey. They expect it.
They do expect it. It's become a staple.
They either
of Vegan
expect
Freak
it
Radio.
or they complain about it.
We've got a new way of ranting about John Mackey today. So, courtesy of Middle Class Joe, a long-time listener and supporter of Vegan Freak Radio. But Jenna, why don't you begin by reading the fine article that we have here?
Okay, and this article comes from the New York Times. It's Whole Foods executive used alias. John P. Mackey, the co-founder of Whole Foods Market, has never lacked for personality. He is a self-described vegan and libertarian who pays himself $1 a year as chairman and chief executive and maintains a blog on the company's website where the posts are occasionally barbed.
Can we say something?
Mm-hmm.
Self-described vegan.
Uh-huh.
Doesn't he eat eggs?
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he sells meat, so that would cancel out the vegan part for most people.
He doesn't sell it. He heads up a company that sells it.
Okay, there you go.
Go ahead.
As it turns out, that was only the half of it. For 7 years, Mr. Mackey had an online alter ego. Using the pseudonym Rao Deb, a variation of Deborah, his wife's name, Mr. Mackey typed out more than 1,100 entries on Yahoo's finance bulletin board over a 7-year period. That's a lot.
That's almost, yeah. Well, what I have 8,000 posts on our forums in 2 years.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, good point.
I'm a bigger loser than Mackey. Go ahead.
Championing his company's stock and occasionally blasting a rival Wild Oats Markets. The story was first disclosed on the Wall Street Journal's website last night. Responding to a posting on March 28, 2006, Rao Deb wrote, Oats has lost their way and no longer has a sense of mission or even a well-thought-out theory of the business. They lack a viable business model that they can replicate. They are floundering around hoping to find a viable strategy that may stop their erosion. Problem is that they lack the time and the capital now. Mr. Mackey apparently did not fool participants on the forum who occasionally tried to out Rao Deb. In one instance, he responded by saying that he was in fact George W. Bush. In response to another posting titled, Hey John, I mean Rao Deb, he wrote on June 10th, 2003,
Another person who thinks my name is John. Well, if you really believe I'm John Mackey, you should probably pay more attention to what I say on this board. I would be the ultimate Whole Foods insider.
Thank you, middle class Joe.
What do you mean? That's John Mackey. That's
right,
Rao Deb.
Yes.
It's the many moves.
It's the dramatic interpretation.
It's a dramatic reenactment. It's like Unsolved Mysteries.
Right.
Okay, sorry.
Mr. Mackey's alias surfaced in a footnote in a 40-page court document filed on June 6th by lawyers for the Federal Trade Commission, which is trying to block Whole Foods' acquisition of Wild Oats on the ground that it would limit competition among natural and organic groceries. Whole Foods announced in February that it planned to buy its smaller rival for $565 million. Mr. Mackey posted a response on his company's website late Wednesday acknowledging that he used the pseudonym Rao Deb on Yahoo financial bulletin boards from 1999 until last summer. He said the FTC discovered his alias through one of the millions of litigation documents that the Whole Foods provided to them. I posted on Yahoo under pseudonym because I had fun doing it, he wrote. I never intended any of those postings to be identified with me. Mr. Mackey said the views expressed sometimes represented his beliefs. In other instances, he said he offered different views from his own to play devil's advocate. He said no proprietary information on Whole Foods was disclosed. But Mr. Mackey's writings are proving to be a critical element in the Federal Trade Commission's case. There's no mystery as to why Whole Foods wants to buy its closest rival, the government wrote in the June 6th court document. The document also said that Mr. Mackey justified paying a significant premium for Wild Oats by telling board members that the company would, quote, avoid a nasty price wars in Portland, both Oregon and Maine, Boulder, Nashville, and several other cities which will harm our gross margins and profitability. Oats may not be able to defeat us, but they can still hurt us, Mr. Mackey said, according to the government. Mr. Mackey had argued that his company competes not just with Wild Oats, but also with conventional grocery stores that have rushed to offer organic products, largely because of the success of Whole Foods. Teaming with Wild Oats, he said, would create a company better suited to combat larger rivals like Kroger, Safeway, and Walmart. But Rao Deb showed little respect for Wild Oats and its former chief executive, Perry Odak. In a February 24, 2005 posting, he wrote, Perhaps the Oats board will wake up and dump Odak and bring in a visionary and highly competent CEO. At the same time, he wrote glowingly and anonymously of John Mackey.
I like Mackey's haircut. I think it looks cute.
Rao Deb wrote on April 28, 2000. You must not patronize any of WFMI's stores, the writer continued, using Whole Foods stock symbol.
Tattoos, piercings, unusual dress, and interesting haircuts are everywhere in the stores. By comparison, Mackey looks like a model for Brooks Brothers.
Rao Deb's final remarks were posted last August after he lost a bet to another correspondent, Hubris 12,000, over Whole Foods stock performance. Surgeon General and Boston Cowboy, you were both right about my true identity all along, he concluded. Congratulations on your cleverness. As one might expect, Yahoo's message boards erupted with chatter about Mr. Mackey's secret identity. In light of this news, perhaps the name of the company should be changed to Whole Foods Bazaar, Jim Tarheel wrote. What a hoot, it's so Nixonian.
This last line is annoying.
Maybe he needs some animal fat in his diet. I've known vegans who suffered from teeth and gum disease. Now we now know who a vegan who's suffering from foot and mouth disease.
Yes. There are a couple others, too, we didn't get to play.
I admit to my bias.
This is Mr. Hankey.
I love the company, and I'm in for the long haul. I shop at Whole Foods. I own a great deal of its stock. I'm aligned with the mission and values of the company. Is there something wrong with this?
Yeah, apparently, according to the FTC, there is.
Well, I'm glad you've got a category for me. Gosh, so I'm a new ager. I wondered what I was. Now that you've got a category for me, I guess my ideas and arguments don't need to really be taken seriously now, do they? For your information, I don't think of myself as a new ager. Where I live, I will keep private. While I'm not a Mackey groupie, I do admire what the man has accomplished. Building a $1.6 billion business from scratch is quite an achievement. What have you accomplished in comparison, White Me Worry 99? If you want to understand Whole Food Market's past, current, and future success, you'll need to understand that there are about 50 million adults in the United States who share very similar lifestyles and values to myself.
So there you go. All kinds of good things from John Mackeys.
Yep.
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of interesting that, someone who's a CEO of a corporation would have that kind of time to
Yeah, seriously.
take on a pseudonym and get online and post and try to influence the way people think about his company. It seems a little micromanagerial to me, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know, megalomaniacal?
Yeah, it could be that too, as if there's a difference. Well, anyway, enough about Mackey. You want to move on?
Yes.
Okay,
I mean, the
good.
article pretty much speaks for itself as to what a fuckhead he is.
True. So,
And again, once again, thank you,
absolutely.
Middle Class Joe, for the dramatic reenactment.
The dramatic reenactment, just like Unsolved Mysteries. But now we have to move on to another steamy topic. Oh yeah, we're going to move on to something very steamy. Carnivore sex off the menu. Yeah. I wish I had gotten some sounds like like generic porno noises, like Wouldn't that be cool? That would fit really well here, wouldn't it?
It would.
You're a woman. Come on, let's hear some of those women porno. I'll do the guy. You can do the woman.
Nah, that's all right. I'll pass.
Come on, bone smuggling, baby. No.
No.
Come on, just
Not feeling it.
No.
No.
Okay. Anyway, so yeah, I downloaded this cheesy ass music. Let's turn this down a little. Carnivore sex off the menu. Now, this has kind of been making the rounds around the web, around blogs, and of course, we've been again. Vegans are the target of complete media idiocy. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the show, in the special subscriber segment, we're going to talk about Tucker Carlson doing some stuff on MSNBC, and I'm going to talk about my experience today being interviewed by Newsweek magazine, talking about this very issue. So that'll be in the subscriber segment after the regular show. But for now, carnivore sex off the menu. This is from, let's see, The Press from New Zealand. And it says, "No sex, please. You're a carnivore." And it's got a picture of two fairly ugly vegans there. Did they try to find the ugliest vegans they could? They're not the ugliest vegans, but they're fairly... Don't you know many more attractive vegans than that?
Oh, yes. Most of the people I know are extremely attractive vegans.
Exactly. Now, they could have come to our forums and found plenty of naked vegans.
Yeah.
You know? But they instead... And they have no shirts on. They're purposeful. Anyway, carnivore sex off the menu. A new phenomenon in New Zealand is taking the idea of you are what you eat to the extreme. Vegan sexuals are people who do not eat any meat or animal products and who choose not to be sexually intimate with non-vegan partners whose bodies they say are made up of dead animals. The co-director of the New Zealand Centre for Human and Animal Studies at Canterbury University, Annie Potts, said she coined the term after doing research on the lives of cruelty-free consumers. Cruelty-free consumption in New Zealand, a national report on the perspectives and experiences of vegetarians and other ethical consumers, asked 157 people nationwide about everything from battery chickens to sexual preferences. Many female respondents described being attracted to people who ate meat, but said they did not want to have sex with meat eaters because their bodies were made up of animal carcasses. "It's a whole new thing. I have not come across it before," said Potts. One vegan respondent from Christchurch said, "I believe we are what we consume, so I really struggle with bodily fluids, especially sexually." Another Christchurch vegan said she found non-vegans attractive, but would not want to be physically close to them. I would not want to be intimate with someone whose body is literally made up from the bodies of others who have died for their sustenance, she said. Christchurch vegan Nicola Creek has been married to her vegan husband, Hans, for 9 years. She would not describe herself as vegan sexual, but said it would definitely be a preference. She could understand people not wanting to get too close to non-vegan or non-vegetarians. When you're a vegan or vegetarian, you are very aware that when people eat a meaty diet, they are kind of a graveyard for animals, she said. So what do you think, Jenna?
The term annoys me.
The vegan sexual?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's like every other academic in the world, right? You have to coin your term to be successful.
I guess. It's just, of course, like this, non-vegan, slapping this term on that we would never apply to ourselves,
Sure.
I mean, and I don't know why it's so surprising to this person that it would be a preference. I mean, just think about, the day-to-day aspect of it. The way she describes it is they don't want to have sex with omnis because their bodies are made up of animals.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody who would put it that way exactly.
No, not exactly that way.
If anything, it's just that, would you want to kiss someone who tasted like death?
Well, I mean, no one's getting shit for not, like, for example, on a dating site, you can specify smoker or non-smoker, right?
Right.
No one gets shit for that.
Yeah. I mean, you don't want to, a non-smoker doesn't necessarily want to kiss, someone who tastes like an ashtray. I've seen people who describe it that way before.
Yeah.
Or even when it comes down to it, you don't necessarily want to taste someone who tastes like something you don't like to eat.
Yeah.
So why is it so surprising that a vegetarian would not want to taste meat when they kiss their partner? The horrible meat! Where did that come from?
Angry Duck. From Invader Zim.
I thought so.
It is horrible meat, though. If someone's eating the horrible meat, the horrible meat, they just ate a steak. Would you want to kiss them?
No.
And, it's like, I can imagine, I don't have any experience with this, but I would guess that the bodily secretions of non-vegans would taste different.
And smell different?
Ew.
I mean, you sweat out what you eat.
Ew.
If you eat a lot of garlic, you sweat garlic.
Is that why people always come around me and say, is someone making Italian food? Like, no, that's me. No, I don't ever get that. Actually, someone in my office did say I smelled kind of herbally and nice. I was like, I'm like, that's my natural odor. I'm vegan. Thank you. That just emanates from my body.
But think about it. I mean, you're eating a dead carcass and it's rotting in your gut. Because that's what it does. And it sits there because it takes a long time to digest. And of course, it's kind of nasty to think about. Not to mention the fact that if you're with someone who doesn't really give a shit, it's like, why would you want to be with that person?
Yep.
You're working hard to put food on your family.
Sorry.
Yeah.
But you're right. I don't know why you would want that. I mean, kind of the way I broke it down, and I'll talk more about this later, but the way I kind of broke it down was like, look, it's an ethical choice. Would you want to be with someone, for some vegans, they don't want to be with someone who is making a choice to consume animals. Mm-hmm. For some people, it's that way. Other people, it's fine. They can deal with it. Mm-hmm. So I think there are a variety of ways that a lot of people are in like omnivore vegan relationships and they do it just fine. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, there are people who prefer to be with vegans, and I don't understand why that's such an issue.
I know. I guess it just shows the real divide between the perceptions that we as vegans have. We see death, we see horrendous cruelty, we see this horrible thing that's going on, and we are disgusted by it.
Yep.
And whether you're viscerally disgusted by it, like, the smell turns you off or not, you're disgusted by the fact that it happens. So I don't see why it's such a big, I guess, non-vegans just do not understand that perspective at all. And it just really demonstrates how wide that gap still is.
Absolutely.
So I think it's important that people understand that vegans have this other perspective. And this, I guess, is one way to show it, but unfortunately it just leads to jokes.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, is that everybody kind of, to the average person who looks at this, it's like, oh, those weird vegans again.
I know, especially when they slap a term like vegan sexual onto it.
I think vegan sexual is such a stupid
it's fucking
term.
Idiotic.
I mean, it really is. It's like you could use, I don't know. It's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And it's just another way we're being defined by people who are not us. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the marks of power, man. You can't even articulate your own identity.
Exactly.
Well, anyway, that's it for the news and ideas for this week, and we're going to move into a Dino segment.
Dino, we who cook with Dino are the luckiest people in the world.
Okay, we are here once again with Dino. We have not had a Dino segment in a while, and we are anxious to talk to Dino because now his cookbook is officially out. And the cookbook, in case for those who are if you're a new listener, the cookbook is called Alternative Vegan. And so, Dino, tell us, how has everything been going with the cookbook?
It's been going absolutely wonderfully. I started a blog on Bob's suggestion. The address for that is altveg, altveg.blogspot.com. And I'm keeping the thing updated with some of my daily experiences, some of the stuff I'm cooking, some of the stuff that's going on in my life. Sort of, if you just want to keep up with me, it's all on there.
All right. We'll be sure to put that in the show notes.
Excellent.
Definitely. That's also the easiest way for the listeners to email me questions or comments. If you just leave a comment on any of the entries, it gets straight to my email that I have open at all times.
That's true. You're always on the computer.
I'm always on the forums, but if you're not on the forums and you still want to send me a question, you can do it.
True.
And I've been getting some questions about, whatever certain people call me, such as my mother or my friends or, family, they want to know how the book is doing, and I sort of wanted to address that, if I may.
Of course.
So far, the feedback I've been getting is that, I'm happy that I can now go into the kitchen and not be scared anymore, or I'm happy that you're giving me permission to sort of play around with it and do things that I've never done before. People are saying things like, oh my God, I made the lentils and chickpeas, and I'm sitting here eating them cold right now. I added some peanut butter when I was cooking and subbed out some vermouth for the vodka. Oh my God, okay, I feel better. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that I'm getting on a regular basis.
Cool.
So, frankly, regardless of what the numbers are in terms of how many books are being sold, that's not important to me, as the fact that people are telling me I've never cooked this way before, and I'm so happy that I'm able to do it now because it's so easy.
Awesome. Well, the numbers actually aren't bad, and they're going to get better because AK Press just recently picked you up. So
that's very cool to know.
Yeah.
Does it come up on the AK Press website as well?
I don't think yet. They just got the books probably last week, so it'll come up soon.
Very, very cool. And
Yeah.
Animal from South Africa said that he has a animal rights organization, and they're going to start carrying it as well.
Cool.
Wonderful.
Yep. Very, very exciting stuff.
So, I don't think you should downplay the numbers. They're actually quite good.
I'm sure they are, but to me, that's not the measure of my success, if that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense, and that's good to hear.
Because if you remember from the beginning, I was like, I don't really want all the credit. I don't want all the recognition. It's more so that people get out there and start cooking that I want them to do. And what do you know? It's happening from the first day that the books went into people's hands. They're responding and saying, wow, this is wonderful, and having so much fun.
Cool. So what kind of questions and things are coming up?
One of the questions that I got recently is rather important, and it addresses the question of how you freeze stuff properly. The person in ViroJenny asked me, hi Dino, you've mentioned before that you don't buy canned beans. Instead, to save money, you buy dried beans and soak them and cook them. Do you ever make large batches and freeze them? Reason I ask is because I've started doing this. Each source I look at says a different answer for how long you can keep them in the freezer. For Easy Beans cookbook, it says 8 months. Another cookbook says 6, and now this online source says 2 to 3 months. Do you know how long you can store beans in the freezer for? P.S. My friend, for an early birthday present, gave me your cookbook. I just love it and made the quick garbanzo soup my favorite so far. 5.
All right.
There's a couple of different issues that we want to tackle. Number one being, there's 2 different types of freezers that you're probably going to see in your home. The first kind is the one that just comes with your refrigerator and freezer. It's just on the top or the bottom there or on the side. And you kind of use it on a regular basis. You throw things in there, you take stuff out, and you have your soy ice cream and your whatever in there, right? And you're using that on a regular basis. Now, if you're going to be using that to freeze your food, yes, definitely you don't want to keep them in there for more than 2 to 6 months, give or take, because you are opening and closing that door so much that the food is going to, melt a little tiny bit when you open it and then refreeze when you close it. So the shelf life is not going to be as long as what's called a deep freeze unit. These are these large units that are about the size of a regular refrigerator and freezer, and that's where you want to freeze things for long term. So say, for example, I make a giant pot of chili that's about, 5-6 kilos heavy, and I want to freeze enough of it for a year. I want to throw it into my larger freezer because I'm not going to be opening it on a regular basis. It's just going to sit there, do its thing, and the ice actually gets colder in there than it would in my regular freezer. Cool. Another thing to address is that not only do you have to worry about the size of the freezer, you also want to worry about the amount of water content that you have in your recipes. I've seen a lot of people freeze things with a lot of water in them, and that's really not a good idea just because, number one, you're taking up more space in your freezer, and it's going to take longer to freeze. But number two, it's going to reduce the shelf life because the more water you have in there, the more stuff you're going to have melting versus the solid matter you can keep there pretty much indefinitely. So say, for example, I make something like a beans or something. I want to drain off as much of the water as I humanly can and freeze the cooked beans by themselves without spicing them or anything. Then when I'm ready to have them, I take them out, I thaw them, and then I add the spices to them and eat them that way. Because the less water you have, the quicker it'll freeze, the longer it'll stay, and the better it's going to stay in that state.
Cool.
Yes. I hope everyone can keep this straight so far.
It's pretty straightforward.
It's pretty straightforward, you would think, but I have seen people freezing things like stocks and soups and things like that, and that's fine. But what you want to do is make it double or triple strength and then freeze the concentrate and then rehydrate it when you take it out.
That makes a lot of sense.
It's what I do every time because I grew up in a family of 6, and if you have these giant pots of stock sitting in your freezer, you're not exactly going to have freezer space anymore.
Good point.
Yeah.
So what else came up, do you know?
What else came up? That was about it. Right, the curry leaves issue. Right. Thanks for that, Bob. I've been getting a lot of questions about the curry leaf issue as to where to find it, how to grow it, and all the rest of it. And I think it's wonderful that people want to try the stuff, the recipes, in their unadulterated form as much as possible. However, I must say that it's kind of disheartening to hear that people are so fixated on getting curry leaves, come hell or high water, because although it is nice to have, it is not a necessity in any of the recipes that we have in there. I cannot count how many times that we haven't had curry leaves at home. Sometimes I'm traveling, or say, for example, I just don't feel like going outside into the rain and picking curry leaves. I will cook without them because the food tastes perfectly fine. The spices are really what gives it that flavor, and the techniques are sort of what builds up that flavor, versus the curry leaves just give it sort of like a little extra something.
Like a depth.
But it's not necessary by any means at all. Say, for example, I'm making a pot of dal or something, and I don't have curry leaves. I don't bother with it. I just go about spicing my dishes I normally would, and it's going to taste fantastic. If I have it, I'll throw it in there as an option. So I think I may not have been very clear in the book when I said there's no substitute for curry leaves. That's absolutely true. But what that means is that if you can't find them, don't use them.
Right. But the other thing is that they're not really hard to get online, and once you get them, you can freeze them. I mean, they lose a little bit of the punch, but they're still pretty good when you freeze them.
They're still pretty good. They're actually even pretty decent dried, although I'm probably going to get some purists, running down my door, with a battering ram or something for saying this.
I wouldn't use them dried.
I know you wouldn't use them dried, but, sometimes when you're in a pinch, you do what you can.
Yeah, I know.
Mm-hmm.
And personally, I wouldn't use them. I just leave it out completely. But say, I went up to Steve's house in the south suburbs of Chicago, and they don't have curry leaves nearby, or what they do have is freaking expensive. I took up a large paper bag full of curry leaves the first time I went to visit him, and I told him to just dry them, if he's going to be using them long term, because I didn't know that he was moving down here. And what do you know, they worked out just fine. It wasn't going to be that same level of depth of flavor, but it'll get you by.
Cool. Actually, I have a question for you.
Sure.
I've seen some recipes, South Indian cooking, and that call for coconut. And
yes.
It's often just like dried coconut, and we sometimes don't have that around the house or don't want to use it or whatever. Can you still make the South Asian recipes without the coconut?
Yes, you can, because what happens is that there's a particular region of India called Kerala, and they put coconut in pretty damn near everything, I would have to say. It's wonderful food, don't get me wrong. I love Keralite food. I have a few recipes in the book, and whenever I eat there, I'm just in heaven because there's so freaking much coconut. It's not just the coconut milk, it's the coconut juice, it's the grated coconut, all the rest of it. Technically, if you can't get dried coconut or fresh coconut, do it without. But see if you can add some like coconut milk or some nuts to replace out that fat, if you know what I mean.
Oh, so you could use ground nuts?
You could use it's not ideal, but it'll give you that same mouthfeel in your mouth. So say, for example, you're not going to do this something in like a coconut sauce or something where you just grind up the coconut and spices. This is going to work for, let's say, an erizi or a awhile or a kuta or something like that, where it's a giant pot of vegetables and you throw some coconut in there, and it's just there for the taste of that fat. What you want to do is, let's say, grind up some almonds or grind up some cashews or pistachios or something else, and just throw it in there, and it's going to give you that little bit of mouthfeel that you're going to get from the coconut. It'll never be the same, but it'll be pretty darn close.
Well, that's good to know, because I was making sambar the other day. We didn't have any coconut, and I didn't know what to use, so I just kind of left it out. So,
did you have coconut milk by any chance?
No.
The sambar was still pretty good, though.
Yeah.
Of course. That's what I mean, is like it's not absolutely required. You can actually do it without it.
Yeah, we try to stay away from the coconut milk because it's really high in fat.
It is horrifically fattening, I will give you that much.
It can be. So what have you been cooking lately? Anything good?
Oh my goodness, I was over at my friend's house on Saturday, and I had made that chickpeas, cashews, and lentils dish. Only this time, I was at my friend's house, and they had some red beans, and they're like, we already have some cooked red beans, let's throw it in. So we threw it in. And so I have this giant pot of nuts and beans and the rest of it, and I went over to my friend's house on Saturday afternoon, and she was like, well, I'm hungry, do you want to go out and eat? And I said, I have this giant pot of beans, let me bring it over. So I brought it over, and I made a really quick rice pilaf. She didn't have any vegetables. It was just a little bit of oil where you toast the rice in the oil, and I threw in some Italian seasoning because that's what she had in the cabinet, a little bit of garlic powder and some onion powder and some salt and pepper, and then I cooked the rice as I normally would with the water and let it get all puffy and fluffy, and we attacked it, and we finished off half of it right then and there, just between the two of us. After that, it was all said and done, I was like, well, we have some leftovers, do you care if I experiment? And seeing as how she had just tasted my cooking a few minutes ago, she's like, go right ahead. So I grabbed the rest of the rice and the rest of the beans, and I combined them together with a pastry cutter. These are the firm ones, not the floppy ones. Because if I tried to use a potato masher, it wouldn't have cut up the beans. It wouldn't have cut up the nuts. So here I am grinding this down a bit, and we formed them into little patties and sprayed our cookie sheet with non-stick cooking spray and baked them on 350 for about 25 minutes or so until they were kind of crispy on the outside and lovely on the inside. We were popping them like potato crisps, just like straight up out of there and just like chomp, 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 chomp. And to go with it, I made this really quick sauce with ketchup and garlic and just ground it up in the blender right quick. It was wonderful stuff.
That sounds really good.
Hungry.
I want the form.
It was so easy to make too, because it was just using up leftover rice and leftover beans, and that was it. And it took not even a few seconds to put together.
That's a really great way to jazz up leftovers. It's great.
It's a really sneaky way to introduce your kids to beans.
Good point.
Kids usually, if you can explain to kids that beans make them fart, though, they're probably into it.
I've known some fairly finicky kids, though, who, if it's not in nugget and or patty form, they refuse to eat it.
So you form them into a nugget and say, look, these are little fart nuggets, and you eat them and you can fart. That would have...
Maybe that would have worked for you.
Look at our vegan freaks. I think 90% of them would go for that, too.
True.
That's true. It would have worked for me.
Yeah.
Hey, whatever floats your fart, I guess.
I'm a beaner anyway, it's...
Well, yeah. But I'm a beaner from the other side of the planet, so between the two of us.
That's true.
True.
And you notice how I've not cussed as much as I normally do.
That's true. Have you been trying not to?
No, I've just been so happy.
That's good.
I've been getting so much positive feedback. I've been cooking for Steve pretty darn near nonstop, and he has been eating it like nobody's business. Let me tell you, that Venpungal stuff is so addicting. I make it, once every couple of weeks or so at least.
Oh, yeah. We make it often.
We do at least
often.
Every other week, if not.
And what I found is that if I don't want to use all brown rice, I use half barley, 1/4 whole wheat berries, and 1/4 brown rice.
Ooh, that's a really good idea.
Because as you mentioned, Bob, brown rice does still have a fair bit of that glycemic index stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas whole wheat berries don't go through you as fast, and barley's very good for you.
Yeah, barley is.
Barley's great.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So
Cool.
because the thing is already gooey and mushy in anyway, it really doesn't matter how many different grains you mix. You can sort of find the combination that's right for you, mash them all up and throw it in, and you're good to go.
Well, for those of listeners who don't know what Ben Pongal is, can you give us a very brief description?
Basic concept is if you've ever had a South American gallo pinto where it's the beans and the rice cooked together, it's the same basic concept where you take a bunch of spices, you take a bunch of rice and some split yellow peas, you throw it into a giant pot and cook it until it's all mushy.
It's really good.
That's really good.
It's really good.
It's perfect comfort food. It's great for, I mean, we eat it in the summer, but it's great for the winter too. It's excellent.
And it doesn't have that much fat. It doesn't have that much of anything else.
That's
it's
right.
Pretty much your beans, your rice, your spices, and it's all in one pot.
It's great.
And you cook it until it's all the way kind of mushy so that, kids can eat it, adults can eat it. It's really not a problem.
And you can really spice it up a lot if you want, and not much if you don't want to. And
Absolutely.
I tend to go on the heavier chili and spices route when I'm making it.
of course.
A bit of extra chili, a bit of extra salt, and a bit of extra spice for me. But the one in the book is meant to suit like everyone from your 5-year-old kid to your 65-year-old grandfather.
Nice.
Excellent. Oh, on the
In fact, that's what we use for babies and old people because
it's easy to chew.
You have to chew it.
you don't have to chew it exactly.
Yeah. Oh,
What I found is that getting kids to eat vegan food, you do have to understand kids. They don't like to eat foods that are hard or that take a lot of chewing or that take a lot of effort for them. So if you set something like this in front of them where it's steamy and it's creamy and it's kind of warm, but they don't have to chew it too much, they have no problem eating it at all.
Excellent. Oh, and on the forums, you had mentioned a very ingenious use for your Jimmy Crack corn crack patties.
Oh, yes. I figured that rather than doing them deep fried, the corn crack is basically cornmeal and tinned corn or frozen corn, and you combine it together. And originally I had set to deep fry them, but I went up to visit the New Jersey freaks, and instead of deep frying them, I sprayed them with non-fat cooking spray and threw them in the oven and used them as dumplings for the kale soup. And let me tell you, they got finished real quick.
That sounds really good.
Because I remember your health food episode, Bob, where you said, let's try not to fry as much as we can and use the non-fat cooking spray. So I really took it to heart, God damn you, and it's working.
It's good to hear, Dino.
Yeah.
But, not everybody is like, a diseased freak like me.
Well, no, you don't even need to be diseased. It's just why should you be consuming large amounts of fat if you don't have to?
I agree. Very good point.
I'm the furthest thing from a health food vegan. I drink, I smoke, I do all kinds of lovely stuff. I deep fry stuff in shortening. I'm the last person to preach about health.
This is true. Cool.
But see, then it's
if you don't need to do it, you don't don't do it.
Yeah, and it's another example of things in your cookbook that you can tailor to suit your own needs.
That's right.
In fact, I expect you guys who are listening right now to tailor to your own needs, and do not ask me if it's okay. That's the point. You're supposed to make it your own way, because that's why I wrote the thing in the first place, so that you could figure it out for yourself. And I'm giving you the guidelines, but I'm not the be-all and end-all of cooking. Only you can say what's right for you.
So, what I like about your cookbook, and this is kind of a software analogy, and I know that some people in the free and open source software community hate the term open source, but your cooking is like open source software. I mean, like you're giving someone the code and telling them, here's the code. You can change it. You can do whatever you need to the code to suit your taste. I swear, that's the way that free software operates.
That is absolutely the philosophy behind it. And what I specifically say is make it your own, sort of pretend that you made this up on your own and that no cookbook told you how to do it. So that when someone asks you where you become such a fantastic cook, say, oh, I just started experimenting on my own.
And that's what I like about the book in a lot of ways, because, I read some of your recipes, I'm like, oh, I don't want to add that, and I don't.
Right.
So it's great.
Or sometimes you don't have all the ingredients, and frankly, just because you don't have everything in there doesn't mean that you can't make it.
That's right. I completely agree. So
I was a college student at one point as well, so I understand that very well.
Nice. I think that's all we have. Anything else you want to add quickly before we close it out?
Please give me comments on the blog, but most importantly, please give me comments on the Amazon website so that
helps.
people who are buying it can see that people actually do enjoy the book, because it's kind of crappy for me to post feedback on there. That's kind of self-aggrandizing. But if y'all post your feedback, that's a totally different case.
Good point. And
Yes.
you can find out more about Dino's cookbook at altveg.blogspot.com. You can order it from Amazon. You can leave feedback at Amazon. You can also order it from our store, the Tofu Hound Press store, and I will put the link to that in the show notes. So Dino, thank you yet again for coming on. We need to get you on here more often.
I would love that.
We will do that.
All right, just let me know, Bob.
And if you have questions for Dino, make sure you go to his blog, altveg.blogspot.com, and get them to him.
Yes, and I will definitely answer them as best I can.
And Dino will answer them. He's the man.
Thanks so much, you guys. Take care.
Thanks, Dino.
So now our cast iron skillets are treated and our ovens are all preheated. Throw away that fake meat, it'd bring out the vicious wrath of Dino. Vegan freaks love Dino, 'cause he sure can cucino. Grazie, Dino. Molto squisito.
Okay, so
Thank you, Dino.
absolutely, and we will put links in the show notes to where you can find all the stuff we talked about during the show with Dino. And yeah,
I think that's it.
that is definitely it. So I know short show this week, but we thought we'd do something rather than nothing.
Yeah.
You know, like, again, I want to just apologize to our listeners. I know you've been very faithful to us. We appreciate your support at Podcast Alley and all that other stuff, but we're really, like, don't really have any time. And we're working from the time we get up in the morning until the time we go to bed, and it's going to be like that for next month. So we're going to try to do shows when we can, but please be patient with us.
Yes.
We won't leave you behind. We will not do this. We will not just drop out.
No, we won't.
But we just need some time to get our life sorted out.
Yep.
Our work. So
But you still can contact us.
that's right. Show at veganfreeradio.com.
267-295-1944.
And there's always My Chingo as well. We've got them. We're building up the queue. We're going to have another show soon, actually. Probably early probably next week.
Yeah.
Because we'll do another short intro like this, have the Dr. Monty interview.
Yeah, I think we can do that next week.
And we'll probably run a couple of voicemails.
Yeah.
So
All right.
we're going to try to get in for another show next week. It won't be long, but we'll be there. Subscribers, hang around. After the theme song, there's more for you. So I guess that's all we have for this week. Thank you for your support, for voting for us at Podcast Alley, and for all that. And please be patient with us over the next month. I actually feel bad about not being able to deliver shows because we get these really nice emails from people, and I know the shows are useful for a lot of you, or entertaining, and I want to do that, but we got to take care of our stuff before we can take care of your stuff. And we got to get you in a position where we can take care of our stuff, or we won't be able to take care of your stuff.
Yeah. And we won't do good shows because we'll be all stressed out.
In other words, we got to keep our job. So anyway, hang in there and please be patient with us, and we will talk to you again next week.
Bye.
Work is killing me. It's killing both of us.
More than normal.
More than normal. For the next month, we're going to have spotty production schedule. But after that, we will be back into it.
Yes.
In September.
After the first week of September, we're all clear.
But until then, you have to expect somewhat irregular shows. So anyway, enough of that. You don't tune in to hear us whine about shit. You tune in to hear, well, I don't know. What do you tune in to hear?
Rants?
Witty banter? Smugness? I don't know.
Yes.
We've got all of that today.
We do.
And of course, Dino.
Yes.
Later on in the show. Also, I want to mention for subscribers, make sure you stay tuned. There's a special little subscriber segment at the end of the show. So after the music's over in the show, stay tuned because we're doing something extra for our subscriber friends. But with that said, let's just get right into the show.
Okay. Well, I had one thing to announce.
Let's get right into the show.
Okay.
Go.
Some people on the forums and Bob and I are training to do a half marathon or a 5K. And this is all through the website, worldwidehalf.com. Okay. I
think.
Yes, I think so. .com sounds right.
Pretty sure.
And it's basically just to promote.
Today on Vegan Freak Radio, the many moods of John Mackeys, vegan sexuals, and of course, a wonderful Dino segment. All of this and more on show number 77 for the 2nd of August, 2007.
When we were kids, the bugs
Hey, everybody, this is Bob.
And Jenna.
And I forgot to do this.
Coming to you from high atop their elite fortress of moral superiority, here are your protein-deficient hosts, Bob and Jenna.
We're back again now.
That's because we're protein deficient. So
yeah, we are.
We're spacey, right?
Actually, we're time deficient.
Yeah.
So anyway, we need to begin with an apology to our audience. We've tried your patience by not doing regular shows, and we apologize. The past month has been insane. That's all I'm going to say.
Who pays himself $1 a year as chairman and chief executive and maintains a blog on the company's website where the posts are occasionally barbed.
Can we say something?
Mm-hmm.
Self-described vegan.
Uh-huh.
Doesn't he eat eggs?
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he sells meat, so that would cancel out the vegan part for most people.
He doesn't sell it. He heads up a company that sells it.
Okay, there you go.
Go ahead.
As it turns out, that was only the half of it. For 7 years, Mr. Mackey had an online alter ego. Using the pseudonym Raudeb, a variation of Deborah, his wife's name, Mr. Mackey typed out more than 1,100 entries on Yahoo's finance bulletin board over a 7-year period. That's a lot.
That's almost, yeah. Well, what I have, 8,000 posts on our forums in 2 years.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, good point.
I'm a bigger loser than Mackey. Go ahead.
Championing his company's stock and occasionally blasting a rival Wild Oats Markets. The story was first disclosed on the Wall Street Journal's website last night. Responding to a posting on March 28, 2006, Raudeb wrote, "Oats has lost their way and no longer has a sense of mission or even a well-thought-out..."
We got a couple things to talk about here, briefly. Today's going to be fairly short show because, again, we're crazy.
Yeah, no voicemails this week. We're going to save those for next show. We'll just do a voicemail bonanza.
And on the next show, we're going to have Dr. Monty from fitnessrocks.org on the show as well.
Yes, he does a fitness podcast, talks about fitness and diet.
Yeah, and promotes plant-based diets quite heavily.
Yes.
So that's good. So we're not going to have him on this week. We'll have him on next week. So this week you're getting Dino. But let's move into things here. We're a little behind on this, and I'm a little burnt because, man, this is like the day after we did our last show. All the stuff about John Mackey comes out.
And we had to talk about it anyway, so even though it's a couple weeks after.
Who cares, man?
Yeah.
We got all kinds of stuff to say about
We owe it
this.
to our listeners to rant more about John Mackey. They expect it.
They do expect it. It's become a staple.
They either
of Vegan
expect
Freak
it
Radio.
or they complain about it.
We've got a new way of ranting about John Mackey today. So, courtesy of Middle Class Joe, a long-time listener and supporter of Vegan Freak Radio. But Jenna, why don't you begin by reading the fine article that we have here?
Okay, and this article comes from the New York Times. It's Whole Foods executive used alias. John P. Mackey, the co-founder of Whole Foods Market, has never lacked for personality. He is a self-described vegan and libertarian running as a free, healthy thing that you can do. And you don't have to run an organized half marathon or an organized 5K. The point is just to get out there and do the miles yourself.
That's right.
And so there's all kinds of support on that website. And we even started a Team Vegan Freak.
There you go.
So if you'd like to register on that site, it's free, of course, and then join our team, you can do so. So worldwidehalf.com. And the half marathon would be the weekend of October 13th, 14th.
Yeah, somewhere
whatever
in there.
that weekend is. Yeah.
So, yeah.
So you still have 10 weeks to train.
You do. You have plenty of time to train. There are a lot of 10-week schedules out there. And if you can run 3 miles without stopping, you can run a half in 10 weeks.
You can.
Easily.
And if that's not your speed, the Kick the Couch 5K is
That's right.
Get up, get your legs moving one in front of the other. You don't have to do it fast.
Even if
do it.
Even if you are a couch potato today. Even if you are the laziest vegan in the world and you have never worked out, in 10 weeks, you could train yourself to run a 5K without pain.
No problem.
So there you go. We're going to do it if you go over to theworldwidehalf.com and just join Team Vegan Freak and get out there and run with us, man. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So